Tonight on 2020. Workplace Confidential. Lessons from the Shark Tank.
I'm a horrible employee. I'm the worst.
No, they might be. Workers who've had it up to here. Well, there.
There's 10-year-olds running around the school going, oh my God, it's the best game ever! Mommy, can I have this? Can I have this? No!
I don't regret it for a second. At all.
Workers gone wild. And what about office romance? After you clock out, what goes on after the clothes come off?
Is there sex in the office?
Not right now.
Coworkers with benefits and fired for going Gangnam Style. Even for wearing the wrong tie. Do you work for a boss hole? Plus, email nightmares.
I said, oh God, Bill, you replied to all.
Can I recall this email? Can I get it back?
Don't reply all. Plus, think your drive to work is bad?
What the is this guy doing, mother?
What about a 15-hour commute by plane, dog sled, even kayak?
Probably the most relaxing part of my day.
This is the most relaxing part of your day? The rest of your day must suck.
The commute from hell. Tonight, if you've had it with work, this show's for you.
Oh my goodness.
Watch out, you don't want that on 2020.
Workplace Confidential. Here's Elizabeth Vargas.
Good evening. The presidential election this week was all about jobs and the economy, how hard it is to find a job and how hard it is to keep one. So with workplace insecurity at such a high, is it any wonder that workers of the world are melting down, acting up, and freaking out? What's new in the world of 9 to 5 will make you want to call 911. YouTube makes it look like the American workforce is on the edge of a nervous breakdown. Workers of the world rising up against infuriating workplace oppression, the tyranny of bulky computers, paperless printers, and annoying co-workers.
I think there's a lot of rage.
Now, many of these videos are fake. Some are clever viral marketing campaigns. This is really an ad for office chairs. But all these online videos tap into something real, something buried deep in the psyche of the modern worker. Let's call it cubicle rage. Organizational psychologist Ben Datner says white collar, blue collar, everyone's hot under the collar. What is it all about?
The rewards of economic gains have gone, as we all know, to fewer rather than more people in society in general. And when people perceive inequity, they're likely to feel angry and they're likely to want to take retributive steps.
He means revenge. And you've been on the receiving end of that if you've ever walked into the middle of an office worker's bad day. And it can be even worse for those who have to deal with the public, especially in the pressure cooker of fast food. This fried chicken restaurant worker is a hit online. But the most appalling example comes from Iowa. A pizza delivery turns ugly when the customer fails to tip the driver. He comes back and turns her front door into a urinal. These are people who have to say, "Have a nice day," every single time they deal with one of us.
I mean, a lot of people in those customer-facing roles have to be actors and actresses, and that can be very onerous, burdensome, and problematic for certain people who, when pushed to a certain point, can really break.
How was your day?
Dave Heiner worked in a well-known video game chain store in New York. A coworker captured his state of mind the day after Christmas 2009.
You know, my anger frustration was building through the day. I was trying to be very polite to the people as they came and went. And pretty much as soon as we locked the door, the switch went off and I just lost it.
Heiner says he was joking, sort of, but he says he truly had it with the customers and his manager.
I bottled it up all day, and finally my glass jar just shattered, and out it came. You know, and I don't regret it for a second.
Heiner says that on-camera meltdown was nothing compared to what came soon after, when the boss wanted to write him up for slow sales.
I said, I'm not signing this, and I've had enough of your company, and if you, at the end of the day, are going to fire me, I'm just going to quit and save myself the trouble. And I just built up with anger, and I was just ripped straight open. I pretty much just ripped my shirt in half. I was like, I'm done with your company. I ripped it straight down the middle, just boom. I said, this is what I think of you guys. Took it off. I said, you can take a job, shove it, threw it in his face, walked right out the door.
And when it comes to some delivery men who are supposed to bring things to your door, everything is airmail. A delivery worker venting on YouTube that stress can lead to this kind of destruction.
Eventually, I had to become that person. I had to become the person to just completely destroy stuff.
Destruction and drama. It happens as easily in the boardroom as it does in the break room. Take it from one of the stars of the business reality show Shark Tank, billionaire Mark Cuban.
I had a partner who was the exact opposite of me, which worked well 99% of the time. But there were times when we'd have close the door behind us sometimes and just have knockdown, drag-out, screaming matches because we disagreed about how to do business.
But why is it that grown adults can act like children in the office?
The workplace is a powerful social situation, so we come to react to each other as if we were pseudo-siblings, as if our boss was a pseudo-parent. The workplace can be a big happy family, or the workplace can be a big dysfunctional family.
When your office is a classroom, it's inevitable that your colleagues are going to act like children, but sometimes it is the grown-up in the room with issues. Modesto High, California. The class, Algebra 2. The problem, anger management.
I just saw you sitting there pulling it off. What's wrong with you?
And the bad behavior isn't limited to all these videos on YouTube. According to one survey, 42% of people are exposed to yelling and verbal abuse on the job. 29% admit abusing their coworkers, and 10% say they've actually been exposed to physical violence.
Look like somebody that slice your face up.
Anger on the job can sneak up on you. One day, whammo.
You going to jail?
Like getting hit by a bus, or in this case, getting hit on the bus. This video cost a Cleveland bus driver his job. You'll see why.
You want to be a man? I'm going to treat you like a man.
The woman is okay, but that driver, he is so fired. But what will go down in history as the most classic I quit belongs to Steven Slater.
Last time we spoke, you had just pulled the emergency chute, grabbed a few beers, and dropped the F-bomb on the intercom.
Fed up after 20 years as a flight attendant,
I just kind of went with it.
Parachuting into instant fame when he said, basically, take this job and shove it.
This was a dramatic exit.
You know, who hasn't been overworked and underpaid? Who hasn't been outsourced? Who isn't stressed? It was very resonant of where we are as a culture and a country in that moment, and still are.
If you want to keep an eye on whether things are likely to improve, all you have to do is watch the unemployment rate.
With the economy in the state that it's in, and jobs as scarce as they are, that's got to increase stress.
Absolutely.
As well as bad behavior.
When they feel economically dependent on their job, they're likely to be more rigid, more political, more regressed, more emotional.
If you had more people saying, hey, I think you're doing a swell job, I think you're doing a great job, you wouldn't have these people freaking out like me.
The former game store clerk, Dave Heiner, says those workplace tantrums are nothing less than a desperate cry for dignity. An angry anthem for the underpaid, underappreciated worker. And he says more people should try it.
Oh, man, you got enough feet. I got enough feet for that.
I say just let it out. Tell them how you truly feel.
You got enough feet for that.
Next, when office romances go into overdrive.
Is it okay to have sex in the building?
That's a great question.
Then don't get caught on the security cams. "2020 continues. Here's Amy Robach and coworkers with benefits.
Another workday begins at TerraCycle in Trenton, New Jersey. The staff, mostly young and attractive, is committed to the main business here, innovative recycling. But then there's the side business.
Is there sex in the office?
Not right now.
At TerraCycle, business and pleasure absolutely mixed.
Do you see open flirting, like just like on a day-to-day basis?
Everyone's friendly.
Friendly and over-friendly?
You could get a little bit of both. It would be hard to tell where exactly the line is.
I mean, I wouldn't care if I, touched, hugged anyone at any time. There's no boundaries, really.
Ammo, cover me!
No boundaries for sure. There's so much inter-office action, this place needs a hookup flow chart. Just recently, someone on the executive team dated someone in the graphics department. Another person dated someone in accounts management. Meantime, another accounts person dated someone in graphics. Yet a third person dated the office manager. Meantime, someone in product design was dating an intern.
It's obvious. Sex at work, or the romance at work happens.
TerraCycle founder and CEO Tom Zaki has one golden rule on office trysts.
You can hook up with each other if you want.
Yes, be respectful of others, but there are no written guidelines.
You just can't create policies for these things.
When he started TerraCycle out of his dorm room 10 years ago, there were wild parties at the so-called intern house. It led to 2 known pregnancies. Check out the body painting. Today, as the company has matured, things may be somewhat tamer, but legends still abound. It's well known that this conference table has supported a lot more than fourth quarter estimates.
Stacey, you were talking earlier about your friend.
Someone I know had sex in the office.
Someone you know really well.
Somebody I know kind of well.
What did your friend say it was like? Was there something extra fun about it?
It was just kind of an opportunity that arose, and
excuse the pun.
Being
the passionate person that she is.
My friend took advantage of it.
Is it okay to have sex in the building?
That's a great question. Is it okay to have sex in the building? Well,
seriously, Zaki says sex during business hours would be a no-no, which may be why no one has ever been caught on this office security camera. But we found countless examples online of offices where couples supposedly were. Security cam sex, people on the move, on the job.
You really want this position, don't you?
Sex at work is such a fantasy, there are plenty of porn sites devoted to it. But workplace romance need not be sordid, it can be sweet. And maybe nowhere does it fly higher than at Southwest Airlines. They don't call themselves the Love Airline for nothing. There are more than 1,200 married couples who both work here. Their pictures hang proudly in the company's Dallas headquarters.
We are a love couple.
One is Colleen and Kevin Russell. She's in finance, he's in cargo. Together, they're in love.
I did something I've never done before. I asked him out over an email. And I sat at my desk holding my hand over the mouse, just thinking, can I do this? Can I do this? Is this okay?
It was more than okay. 8 months later, they were married. Southwest is totally supportive of the love couples as long as the pair work in different departments and neither manages the other.
Thankfully, we're at a company where it is okay to fall in love with who you fall in love with.
But whether it's for a long time or just a good time, there are rules for office romance.
If your career is important to you at that organization, then you have to think about how that might be impacted.
Caitlin Friedman has written several guidebooks for women in the workplace. Her top 3 do's and don'ts. Number 1, do take it seriously. Workplace romance can have consequences for your reputation.
It makes people uncomfortable. Even if they say they're okay with it, they're not.
So number 2, don't have public displays of affection.
Trust me, nobody wants to see it.
Friedman says keeping the relationship quiet just makes you more professional, which leads to number 3, don't travel for business together. It can lead to troubling questions.
Was this really business? Was this pleasure?
You just don't want to go there.
And that's all when the relationship is going well. 50% of marriages don't last, and dating couples split way more than that. And if life in Cubeland sitting beside a bitter ex isn't bad enough, that's nothing compared to a sexual harassment suit. Just ask Dove Charney, the CEO of clothing giant American Apparel and a notorious workplace Lothario.
You've had relations with some of the people who work for you.
Look,
Isn't that inappropriate?
Well, 57% of Americans meet their spouse at work, and it's perfectly normal and natural that love can take place within the context of the workplace.
Charney sounds a bit like an older version of TerraCycle's Tom Zaki. The difference is he's rich enough for people to try to sue his pants off. This past spring, Charney was interviewed on Nightline after one of several lawsuits against him was settled out of court. Other cases are pending, though no allegations have been proven in court.
All of those accusations are baseless and meritless. And what has happened, you know, high-profile people such as myself are often in the firing line of that kind of stuff.
There are 14,000 sex harassment suits filed annually in the U.S. And in fact, back at TerraCycle, Tom Zaki says he's already been named in one of them. On top of that, he says he was once harassed himself by a customer who wanted more than his business.
I've experienced all aspects of this personally.
But overall, he remains optimistic. He's seen many more good romances than bad, and still thinks when Cupid visits TerraCycle, it's good for everyone.
Happy employees mean a better work product, basically, at the end?
I think happy employees equal higher profitability. And isn't that what every CEO is in the business of?
Next, do you work for a horrible boss?
I want you to fire the fat people. You can start with large Marge. Marge, can you come in here, please? No, Margie's not fat, she's pregnant.
Then get in line with these people. You won't believe why they say they got fired.
It devastated me, actually.
Workplace Confidential continues. Now with Cecilia Vega, and you're fired.
Biggest mistake many entrepreneurs make is that they try to do too much too soon, and it kills them.
He is the star of Shark Tank and the billionaire owner of the Dallas Mavericks. On TV, Mark Cuban comes across as a tough guy boss with a volcanic temper.
Come on, Joey, get your crew together!
But in real life, when it comes to firing a worker, Cuban hates it. He says he's actually a pussycat with the pink slips.
I'm actually a big baby when it comes to firing people.
You'd rather be fired or do the firing?
I'd rather, be the one getting fired than doing the firing.
You take firing someone personally?
Yeah, absolutely. I was the one who hired them, so it was my mistake.
If only all bosses were as sympathetic as Cuban. Instead, we found case after case of workers like this. A Chicago car salesman canned after wearing a Green Bay Packers tie to work to celebrate his team crushing the Bears in the NFL playoffs. The bosses weren't in the celebrating mood. They thought that green and yellow tie would be bad for business.
He said, forget about it. Just get out the showroom floor. You're fired. And I couldn't believe it. I was crying.
Yes, holding on to your job these days can be like negotiating a treacherous minefield. Perhaps the most important pitfall to watch out for is a certain type of employer known by a colorful colloquialism.
A bosshole is somebody who goes above and beyond to be cruel, sadistic, obnoxious of his or her staff.
Yes, horrible bosses, like the one shown in the movie.
You can fire Professor Xavier. You mean Hank?
Yeah, it creeps me out, rolling around all day in a special little secret chair.
Debbie Stevens claims her boss at the car dealership where she worked fits that profile perfectly. She donated a kidney to help her boss stay alive. Before Stevens went under the knife, Debbie's boss, Jackie Bruscia, even sent an email saying, "Thanks, more than I can ever say." But Stevens says soon after, the boss turned on her.
She just went over and above a hostile boss scenario.
While she was home recovering, Stevens says Bruscia delivered an unexpected kidney punch, demanding she get back to work.
And I would let her, know that I was uncomfortable, I was still in pain.
Did you get any sympathy?
No, I didn't. It seemed to aggravate her. It was very upsetting. It devastated me, actually.
Stevens complained to HR, and then she says she was transferred to what she calls a dead-end job and ultimately fired by the company. She's taking her case to court. For the boss and the company, the firing had nothing to do with the kidney. They say they did nothing wrong.
Her boss treated her as a boss should. There was an employee there that was being unproductive and disrupting the other employees, and she was eventually terminated because of that.
Still, Mark Cuban's calling a foul.
You go down there and you say, okay, take all the time off you need to recover, because you just helped save someone's life. You don't second guess that.
But even if your boss has a big heart, there are plenty of other ways to get canned in corporate America. Just try violating any of those countless company rules and policies. You've probably seen these now famous lifeguards from El Monte, California.
Oppan Gangnam Style.
This summer, they made their own video spoof of the monster Korean pop hit Gangnam Style. It became an internet sensation, getting over 2 million hits on YouTube.
It was just pure fun. It was just a way for us to finish off the summer with fun.
But the lifeguards had forgotten about those pesky rules, and they apparently violated a policy about using city facilities without permission. All 13 of them were fired.
They pretty much said they saw the video. It was embarrassing, disgusting, and they asked me to turn in my keys and said your services will no longer be needed.
You guys think that video is embarrassing and disgusting?
Not at all.
Not at all. If we thought that, we wouldn't have even done it.
Would you fire someone like that?
No, of course not, but that's called CYA. If you create an environment where there's absolutely zero discretion, that's the problem you're going to have.
The firing sparked such a huge backlash that even Psy, the Korean pop star who created the Gangnam Style sensation, came to their defense.
I'm begging you to do not fire, please.
It looks like going public worked in this case. Feeling the heat, the city council recently voted to give the lifeguards their jobs back. So they're now dancing with joy. Here's another hidden trap that can get you fired: your past. Apparently, there's no statute of limitations on past indiscretions. Take 37-year-old Tiffany Webb. She made headlines in New York when she was fired after a 12-year career as a high school guidance counselor. Her undoing? 20-year-old photos that showed up on the internet of her modeling lingerie and bikinis. But Tiffany has nothing on 58-year-old Yolanda Quesada of Milwaukee. Wells Fargo Bank lowered the boom on her when they discovered something that happened decades ago. A shoplifting incident involving Yolanda when she was just, get this, 18 years old.
They said you're fired.
You were let go for something you did not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 decades before that.
Yes, yes, yes.
The firing devastated Yolanda, who was proud of her years of excellent service as a Wells Fargo customer service rep.
This is not a slacker's banner you're holding up here.
No, no. I was very good, and I like my job.
Wells Fargo says it was just following the law, but Yolanda is now suing the bank.
What do you want to say to your bosses?
That I want my job back. This is not the way you do this. You know, I've changed my life. I worked for them for 5 years, and I gave good service, the best service.
For Mark Cuban, stories like Yolanda's are exactly why he thinks bosses should think twice before showing a worker the door.
What do you hate so much about firing people?
Because I know you potentially are really hurting someone's life. And if I fired you, I failed as much as you have, probably more.
Next, how many times has it happened to you by mistake? Hitting reply all when you're dissing all.
And I have just undone what I think is a perfectly good career in one blank.
Ever wish you could take it back?
You've had that feeling before. You know you have. That sinking feeling in your stomach when you realize you've just made a disastrous email blunder, like sending your entire office a nasty note meant for your ex-boyfriend. It can happen in a nanosecond, the same amount of time it could take for your career to end when you hit the wrong key at the wrong time to the wrong people. All of them.
This tire commercial that ran during the Super Bowl in 2010 probably made you smile. But it made ad man Bill Cochran's career.
It was huge. To have something on the biggest stage for advertising, it meant the world to me. I could try to be cool about it, but I wasn't. I completely lost my mind.
The spot was called A Whale of a Tale. And now, Cochran has one of his own to tell. It began late in 2010 when Bill and his colleagues were asked to dream up another Super Bowl ad. Bill's boss sent out a mass email to 100 or so creatives, spelling out teams that would compete to come up with that one killer idea, like these ads.
On something as juicy as a Super Bowl spot, it gets a little more cutthroat around here. I just saw that list and I was like, okay, we got to get fired up.
This ex-athlete got fired up by putting others down. Writing to his creative partner, Cochran savaged many of their rivals for the gig, his office colleagues, all in ruthless, R-rated language.
There are words you might say in a locker room about another team, and there are words you might say at a press conference. I used locker room words in this email.
What kind of words are we talking about?
I think I said, I'm sick of their so to speak.
Kick their ass?
Oh, yeah, that sounds like something I would say. This wasn't the most thought out email I've ever written in my life.
When you clicked it, did you have any idea that you had done something wrong?
No idea at all. I felt great.
That feeling lasted until his colleague Wendy Mays called to tell him.
I said, oh God, Bill, you sent that to all. You replied to all.
Within moments, there was sort of, you could hear some cackles and prairie dogs and people popping up.
2 buttons, so close to each other, and Cochran had hit reply all.
I just felt like the blood just drifted completely, just came out of my body. Is there something I can do? Is there a way I can I recall this email? Can I get it back?
No, actually.
There was sort of this look between the creatives, like,
and then other emails started to show up. Bing, bing, bing.
A lot of people started replying to all, back to his reply all, saying, you're an idiot.
The most memorable and the most succinct was just a one-word email that just said, moron. I did another reply all that said something to the effect of, oops.
You know, in the history of mistakes, oops has tended to not be a very useful word.
Cochran was thinking about other words, like bye-bye.
And I have just undone what I think is a perfectly good career in one blank.
He'd have company, like this scene in the newsroom when a producer sends an intimate email to her boss and hits reply all.
What just happened?
I got a staff email from you.
Me too.
I sent the email to Sloan. Will. Oh.
Or the Cornell lovers, whose intimate emails about their extramarital fling, describing spanking, licking, and tickling, were read by their colleagues. The intern at the top legal firm, who accidentally shared with bigwigs that he was doing jack at work. The $300,000 a year UK exec, sacked when he publicly disparaged a job seeker for being too stupid to get a job. Cochran figured he'd be a job seeker himself in a few hours.
I'm going to get fired for this. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to have to move. I'm going to have to start over. I have undone all of this in one stupid click.
I think he said something to the effect of, it's been nice knowing you guys. I'm going to go ahead and pack up my cubicle now.
At some places, a guy who did something like that would have been fired.
No, not here. I just don't think anybody comes running to me and says, you should know about the dumb thing that Bill Cochran did. That just that just never happens here.
Instead, Cochran started doing a smart thing, apologizing.
It starts with I'm sorry, and then there's several other I'm sorries throughout, and then it probably ends with a sorry.
And he came up with a new concept for that year's Super Bowl spot.
Oh no. Rod, you hit reply all.
A spot called Reply All. And to his amazement,
You know I was wrong. You just sent this email to me. Could you imagine?
the client bought it, and it appeared on the Super Bowl earlier last year.
I mean, lemons into lemonade, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yet even amid this happy ending, Bill Cochran has learned his lesson.
When do you say what's really on your mind?
Just in person.
Next, ever feel like doing this on your commute?
Cut me off!
When the road rules your life, just take to the river and kayak to work.
Do you see yourself doing it?
Let me just put this diplomatically. No.
"2020 continues with Dan Harris. Do you have the commute from hell?
If you were handing out the prize for weirdest and wettest commute, Zach Schwitzky would have to get serious consideration.
Probably the most relaxing part of my day.
This is the most relaxing part of your day? The rest of your day must suck.
Zach commutes by kayak, paddling from Hoboken, New Jersey, across the Hudson River to Manhattan. This is about 75,000 times harder than my commute. I went along with him one morning.
Did you see yourself doing it?
Let me just put this diplomatically. No. Which, as you will see in a moment, turned into a rather humbling experience. You ever get halfway across and think, I would much rather be in a cab right now?
Some days.
Before I show you my waterborne Waterloo, consider this visual evidence that Zach is not alone in the holy crap, that's a bizarre commute category.
All right, Silver, let's go.
We found video of an Alaskan gold miner who gets to work by dog sled. A woman in Florida who has to survive this dirt road in order to get afloat across a river. Even a zip line across a deep jungle valley in Colombia. As seen in the documentary Education in Faraway Places, the producers had hoped the film would convince the government to install a cable car, which didn't happen. And then in San Francisco, there's James Walbridge, an architect and an extreme example of a new breed known as the super commuter. Walbridge flies to work.
Commuting on a plane doesn't make any sense. It's not efficient, it's not cost effective, but it's what I do.
His commute begins in beautiful bucolic Nebraska. His wife Sarah and her son Matthew live in Lincoln. For family and medical reasons, they can't go to California, and James can't move to Nebraska full time. Thus, a 1,600-mile plane trip in one direction or another pretty much every week.
You could say it's a commute from hell. That's what happens when you meet a good Midwest girl and you fall in love with her and you marry her.
Back on the river with Zach Schwitzky, and things are not going well for me. There's Zach paddling along, and that tiny little dot back there in the distance, that's me.
There's our correspondent.
Ultimately, they had to tow me in. All right, this is how a real kayaker does it. In my defense, I want to say that even Zach admitted that on this day there was a current that was particularly fierce. While I actually did enjoy my little maritime meltdown, for most of us...
Say, what the is this guy doing, mother?
The daily forced march of a commute can take a genuine toll.
Going 2 miles per hour on the highway!
You can see it all over the internet.
Day after day of the same old...
Like this guy blowing off steam with a virtual drive-by.
Cut me off!
While the average commute is only 25 minutes...
Oh boy, here we go.
TV producer Walter Graff drives roughly 175 miles from Massachusetts to New York 3 to 5 times a week. That's roughly 3.5 hours each way, all to support his 2 children. I find driving very stressful. Do you find that the time in the car can be stressful for you?
Of course it's stressful, and I can feel stress.
And that stress can be truly toxic. Researchers have found commuting can lead to everything from high blood pressure to heart problems, from getting fat to getting divorced. Riding with Walter, it is clear he is feeling the pain. You worry that this is impacting your health?
I know it is. It has to be. I always say that I would die for my kids. Sorry, I get emotional. It's like I am dying for my kids. And I would do it again.
You love your kids a lot.
Oh, nothing else.
Experts say if your commute is killing you, your options are to move closer to your office, try to convince your boss to let you work flexible hours, or find a new mode of transportation. Obviously, kayaking is not going to work for everybody, especially once you learn that even when you get to the other side, all right, let's do this, you still have to drag the thing all the way to the office.
It's funny to see people's reactions when you're dragging a 15-foot boat through the streets of Manhattan.
Zach freely acknowledges his way is not for everybody, but he is a role model of sorts. Given that commuting is such a major part of our daily lives, your health and your sanity may depend on finding something that really does work for you. We're here?
We made it.
Nice. That said, I, for one, do not recommend kayaking. That completes the most ridiculous commute of my life.
Next, hiring, firing, and the dirty little secrets of the HR office.
They're definitely dirty. They're not always so little.
What they see in the photos on your desk, even what's in your car.
And that could cost you the job.
That will cost you the job.
Workplace Confidential continues. Here now, Deborah Roberts and secrets from the HR office.
So why don't you describe yourself, Mr. Dupree?
I'm not a workhorse. If you're looking for a Clydesdale, I'm probably not your man. Incidentally, what's your policy on Columbus Day?
We work.
Really?
Between you, me, and Dupree, most of us know the wrong things to say in a job interview.
My resume.
But in her book, Corporate Confidential, former company hatchet woman Cynthia Shapiro reveals that what you don't know could not only prevent you from getting hired, but could get you fired.
You are essentially giving all those dirty little secrets that HR does not want us to know.
They're definitely dirty. They're not always so little.
And they can be sneaky. If you see family photos on the interviewer's desk and start bonding over having kids, you may have fallen into a secret trap.
There's an HR director that I know, and when you come in for the interview, she's got a picture of 2 adorable little kids that are facing you in the interview. She doesn't have kids.
This is a trick.
What she has is an edict from upper management to not hire moms.
So if you start talking about your children, she knows right away to strike you off the list.
Exactly right.
That's terrible.
And you'll never know.
And there's even a secret backup plan that might keep moms from getting hired. The "let me walk you back to your car" trick.
They're looking to see if you have a baby seat in the back.
Aha, so they come
which
over here and
these people do.
And that could cost you the job.
That will cost you the job.
But even if you land the job, Shapiro says prepare for a game of survival where only your boss knows the rules. Violate them and you may end up on the dreaded top secret layoff list.
There really are layoff lists?
Yes, there are secret. Yes, there are secret layoff lists.
She confesses that all kinds of things can get you on the layoff list, including, get this, your vacation plans.
Vacation time? You want vacation time? Go teach 3rd grade public school.
But if you don't work in a boiler room like the guys in this film, and you actually get 2 weeks of vacation, Shapiro says no one tells you that you probably shouldn't take them all at once.
Companies move too fast. They'll find a way around you in 2 or 3 weeks, and they'll realize they can do without you, and they will.
And watch out for those Mai Tais and margaritas on your not longer than 1 week vacation.
Oh yeah, we gotta trim some of the fat around here.
Trim the, what do you mean by trim the fat?
I want you to fire the fat people.
Like in the movie, there are horrible bosses, Shapiro says, who'll put you on that layoff list simply for how you look, especially if you're looking too old.
Only executives get to have gray hair. It's not fair, but that's how it goes.
You want to look good, but not too good. Deborah Lee Lorenzano claims she was fired by Citibank because they thought her sexy looks were too distracting, even though she wore business clothes.
The worst feeling was knowing that HR was not there to help me, but to help Citibank.
Citibank insists Lorenzano was let go for poor job performance.
We're going to need to go ahead and move you downstairs into storage B.
No, I
we
was told I could
have some new people coming in.
If your office space changes for the worst, like in this film, maybe you're being managed out. A clever way companies get rid of unwanted employees, along with dead-end projects. It's all about building a paper trail, proving you're a poor worker.
The HR people are going to kill me for disclosing this on TV, but they will create documentation that makes the employee look like they're not doing their job.
They fake documentation?
They create it. It's all how you look at it, right?
Shapiro says she was fed up with all that deception, so she quit her high-paying HR job and became a whistleblower. Today, she's on the other side of the fence.
Is there an area the company is guiding you towards?
Using her insider knowledge to counsel workers on getting ahead in the workplace. As for her best tip for staying off that company blacklist, even if your boss is like a devil wearing Prada, stay on her good side.
All right, everyone, gird your loins.
Headlines.
The people who are so positive about their job and say great things and openly support the company, they're the ones who are kept on usually, even if they are not the ones with the best skills and talent.
But those are called the brown nosers and the suck-ups. They're the ones who are safe?
Yeah, those are the ones who are safe.
And that's our program for tonight, but be sure to stay tuned to Nightline after your local news. I'm Elizabeth Vargas, and for all of us at 2020 and ABC News, good night and have a great weekend.